Hey there drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to review the Nanuk 920 hard case for your Mavic Pro. We're heading into those winter months here in the Northeast, and I love filming in cold weather. Some of the most amazing footage I've ever captured from a quad has been after a snowfall, maybe in the morning hours or the late afternoon, and that sun just bounces off that snow and gives you tremendous footage. The challenge with the winter, though, is obviously it's cold and it's wet, so if I take a soft pack like one of my backpacks or one of my custom cases along, I'm worried that if I lay it down on wet ground or in a snowbank, that moisture is going to work its way inside the case and either damage the Mavic or some of the sensitive electronics I brought along. So I definitely need a hard case to protect against the elements, and this is engineered to do exactly that. So the 920 is built to protect the Mavic, your controller, and a ton of other accessories against that type of inclement weather. Now, Nanuk is a company that's been around for a long time. They're one of the world leaders in building these kind of protective cases for all kinds of different industries that have sensitive engineering equipment or measurement equipment. If you're a film buff or you're a camera guy, you probably have a Nanuk case, audio equipment. They make all kinds of different cases. So when they started making cases for quads like the Mavic, it was a pretty exciting time for me. Now, I own a couple of these. I actually bought one, I don't know, a year ago, I guess, a year and a half ago, and loved it so much I bought a second one because I use these things when I travel on planes. They're also great for protecting your gear on a plane. But if you're even, and it's not the winter, and you're out at a beach or maybe you're taking it out near a lake or something, I like having this with me because I'm guaranteed that once I close this thing up, no matter how wet it gets or dirty it gets or sand gets on it, it's not going to get inside and mess everything up for me. So it's really built to take that rugged kind of abuse and still protect your Mavic inside there, because when I open it up, and I'll show you what it looks like, there's laser cut foam inside this thing, which perfectly cradles the Mavic and all the other accessories. So if this thing gets roughed up and bounced around, nothing's going to move inside there. It's going to sit in that, nestled in that nice little soft foam and protect it. So let me talk a little bit about the case first, because honestly, there's a ton of cases on the market that look very similar to this. You can go to your local big box store and buy a generic case, probably for 20 bucks, with that pluck foam that you can pull out and make a shape out of it. And even though that kind of works, over time that foam falls apart and it doesn't really provide the protection you need. So let me point out a couple of things that make this really a superior case over a lot of the other ones that are out there. So the first thing you'll notice is that it's not flat, right? The case itself is made out of incredibly durable plastic that's inflexible. It doesn't move a lot, but they've also built these ribs in to add to that rigidity. So it's not flat where it may cave if something heavy gets laid on top of it. It's got ribs along the sides. They built in these really strong ribs on the bottom and on the top, and they built this incredibly durable lip on the outside. Now, when that lip is closed, this thing is watertight. And what I mean by that is it's got an IP67 rating. You could take this thing, hose it down, you're not going to get a bit of water inside the case. The other thing that's really cool about it is it floats. So if you happen to be on a boat and you're goofy and this thing falls overboard, it's going to float in the water with up to 40 pounds of gear in it. So it's not going to sink to the bottom of the lake where you got to go get a pole out and try and find it. It'll actually float to the top. You can pull it out and everything is safe and dry. In addition to that, it also has two holes up top here that you can put a lock on. So if you're going to carry this in your car, maybe you're in an area where you're not sure if it's safe, you can actually, cable this with a wire someplace in your car and lock it in there. These are primarily there for you to protect it if you're traveling. So if you're going to go to an airport and check it, don't check it with your batteries. Those have to go as carry-ons. But if you do check this case, you can lock these with like a TSA approved lock so they can open it if they need to, but nobody else can mess with your gear. They also have two heavy-duty latches on the front. Now they're called bear claw latches. I don't know if that's trademarked by Nanuk or not, but they're really cool. The thing you want to be careful of is a lot of the cheaper cases, you just pull up the bottom and the latches open up, and that seems great, but I don't want those latches popping open on me if it's going through, TSA or it's in an overhead compartment. I want to make sure that once it's locked, it stays locked. These bear claws require you to pull down on this lever right here first, then lift up, and then it falls down. So that's how you open up those latches. Incredibly heavy duty latches. So you close them up, you can hear them click to close. One other small detail, and I really spent a lot of time analyzing these when I compare them side by side. This may seem like a small detail, but it's a pretty big deal, is this handle up top is a locking handle. So you have to pull it to stand it up. When you're packing this thing in an overhead compartment, you don't want this thing sort of flailing around because it's going to get hit and cracked, especially if it's on a belt going through security. So when I push this thing down, that last quarter of a swing, here, click closed, that handle's not going anywhere at that point. So what you have is a really nice package, and this is protected. I'll spin it around. This is protected completely from the top, so nothing's going to hit those hinges and crack that handle. So they really did a good job on that. Oh, one other thing I want to point out is this little circle here. That's a pressure relief valve. Now, some of the cheaper cases have a pressure relief valve on it, and I'll explain what that does in a minute. But the cheaper ones that have a pressure relief valve, you have to open it up and close it and open it up and close it. This one's automatic, which means it allows you to equalize the pressure inside the case with the outside atmosphere. Now, when would that be a problem? Well, if you're on an airplane, even though those cabins are pressure controlled, if you've flown recently, you know when you head up, your ears pop, and that's because the pressure is being adjusted. So the inside cabin pressure is somewhat controlled, but it's different than it would be at sea level. And the problem is if you have a case that's tightly sealed like this one is, and you don't have some way for the case to adjust that internal pressure, it's going to suck in, and then it's going to bulge out. And if it sucks in hard and you've got stuff inside there that's packed pretty tightly, you could crack something or you could bend the propellers. It's just not a great place to be. Plus, it could compromise the edges. So you want to make sure that you have a pressure relief valve there that as you're getting to altitude, it'll adjust the pressure accordingly, and then when you're descending and land, it'll adjust the pressure on the way down. That way you don't have to mess with it. And again, some of those cheaper cases, you may save a couple of bucks on them, but that means while you're going up, you got to get up and open up the valve. Then when you're coming down, you got to close the valve. Or if you open the valve and you forget to close it and you go out in the elements and it gets wet because stuff got in through that valve, it's just a mess. What's nice about this one, it's automatic. You can forget about it. Don't even think that I talked about it because it just takes care of all the problems for you. All right, so in addition to that, I'm going to open up the case in a second, but what I like so much again about this thing is it's really built like a tank. It's built to handle drops. You can drop this thing from a height and it's not going to crack. They offer it in a bunch of different colors, so if you don't like black, you can get, I think they have olive, they have slate, they have yellow, they have orange. There's a ton of different colors out there, so if you need to have sort of emergency colors like that high visibility yellow or orange, they make it in that color. So whatever color you like, you can get it in. Let me open it up and show you what goes on inside here, and then I'll show you how to pack it, because one of the things I don't like about the other cases is there's not a lot of flexibility with the case. A lot of the other cases will have laser cut foam, or they'll have that plug and play kind of thing, and they have room for the Mavic, the controller, and a tiny little compartment where you're supposed to fit everything else in it. And that doesn't work for me because if I'm traveling, I may want to take a charger, I may want to take a bunch of extra batteries. So with this one, you have plenty of room for everything. So you've got a spot here for your Mavic, you have a spot here for a whole lot of stuff. So I'll show you later how I pack my charger and cables and everything else over there. Your controller will go here. You have a spot for 4 separate batteries. So you can actually carry 1 battery in the Mavic and up to 4 extra batteries next to it. You have a slot here for additional equipment. Here, they put a nice little spot in there. If you have one of those USB adapters for your batteries for the Mavic, that'll slide right in there, and that'll, keep it safe. And then this slot, I thought, well, what are they putting that in there for? That slot over there is for the hub. So if you have that 4 battery charging hub that you can buy for the Mavic, or if you bought the Flymore kit, you got it. That fits in there, and there's a spot here for your phone. So I really think they've done a phenomenal job of sort of providing for everything you'd want. And again, the flexibility I mentioned before, this is a nice deep pocket over here, so I can fit my charger, my cable, I can fit a battery bank in there if I want, a bunch of filters, whatever I happen to carry with me. This one I use mostly for my cables, or if I've got an extended landing gear or a sun shield or something like that. So again, the flexibility is built in where you can sort of customize this for the way you fly and what accessories you want to bring along. So in a second, I'm going to show you how everything fits inside there, and then I'll come back and do a conclusion. But the top part of this as well has really nice soft foam on it, so that once things are put down in the bottom part of it, this goes on top of it and gently pushes it down into these compartments down the bottom to make sure that it's not going to bounce up and things aren't going to, when you open it up, show up everywhere inside here. They're going to stay right where you put them. They're going to, again, be safely nestled in this bottom foam. One other thing I want to point out before I actually show you how this stuff fits in here, a lot of these cases that are less expensive, you won't notice it when you first buy them, but over time you'll notice it for sure. The foam they use in the bottom is really not that great a quality, and it may work well for you for a couple of weeks, but the more you put stuff in and pull stuff out, you're going to notice the foam starting to tear and little pieces of it coming off. And that's dangerous for a couple of reasons, because these are cut to fit exactly the components you're going to put in there and hold them in there nice and stiff. If that foam starts to wear, they're going to jiggle inside there. They'll start banging up against each other. But the other issue is, as that foam disintegrates, those little particles of foam are going to get on your camera. They're going to get into the gimbal assembly. So having foam that's extremely durable like this, and I've used these things, like I say, for over a year, no issues whatsoever. Some of the cheaper cases, I've had them crack here where, this is now flapping around inside there, or the batteries are banging up against each other. You don't want to mess with any of that. So when you're looking at cases, even though this may be a little bit, couple bucks more than some of the other cases, it's definitely worth it because it's going to give you the durability the other cases won't provide. So stay tuned, and I'll show you how to pack this thing. It's comforting to know that all the stuff I want to bring along for an afternoon of flying will fit in this small little case and be totally protected. Let me open it up and show you how I pack it. So I'll open up these bear claw latches on the front. Then inside the case, when you first take a look at it, it's pretty obvious the Mavic will fit here, controller will go there, and these are your batteries. But there's a bunch of other compartments here that you can use for pretty much anything you want, and I'll show you how I pack mine. So let me start with the Mavic. Now I use one of the gimbal lock, gimbal shield combinations on mine to make sure that the gimbal's not going to bounce around and it's protected. It's big enough where you can fit that in there. Now also notice there are 2 finger holes here to get it back out. That makes it nice. A lot of them cut it really tight and then you have to dig in there to get it out, and you'll deform that foam in the bottom if you do that. Next I'll go with the controller. Again, it sinks down nice and deep in that well there, so it's not going to be sticking up too hard where the antennas are going to get broken. The batteries, it'll support up to 4, including the 5th one in the Mavic. I put those in connectors down. You can put them in either way. Power supply, plenty of room over here for that, so if I happen to be going on a trip, I'll take that with me so I can recharge it. I also take a battery bank with me to recharge what I need out in the field. That slides down nice right next to that power supply. Then I've got the AC cord for it, and I can put that almost anywhere inside the case. I'll throw it in here for now. 2 sets of blades, spare blades. If you've got that battery adapter like I'd mentioned before, this is a great little tool to use with one of the Mavic batteries. You pop it on there and you can charge 2 USB devices off it. I carry that with me. They've even given you a little slot where that fits. Let me put that battery back in the right way. Slides right in there. Then if you're using one of the 4-port charging hubs, I take this with me when I'm traveling because I want to charge them all at the same time. They've given you a nice little slot for that to fit as well. Then the additional accessories that I carry with me are a lift kit for the Mavic, and I also carry a sun shield for the Mavic. Plenty of room again down in here for those. And 1 extra cable that I use to connect the controller to my phone, and I can put that over here. So all that gear that I showed you a second ago on the table fits here, and there's still room inside here for additional stuff here and even some accessories down here if I want to. Room for a phone over here, or even another charging bank if I want to do that. So I like it a lot because everything I need can fit in there. When I close this guy up and close these latches, I'm sure that everything inside there is protected from the elements. I don't have to have any worry about it getting wet or damaged if I'm out in adverse conditions. I think it's incredible the amount of gear you can safely pack inside the 920 given its small footprint. And that's really a testament to the company that designed it, because remember, these guys have been in this market a long time designing very specialized cases for high-end electronics and other really expensive gear. And building a case like this to protect your Mavic is something that's new for them, but I think they've done a fantastic job. And I know there's a lot of other cases on the market that look like this, and a lot of clones coming out of China that are less expensive. But think about it for a second. You're putting a tremendous amount of expensive gear inside this, and if you save a few bucks on the case, but it's not really providing the protection for that expensive electronics inside of it, what are you really saving? Now, a couple of things that separate this from the pack are the rugged durability of the case itself. It's impact resistant. You can drop this thing from a pretty good height and not have issues with any of the equipment inside. And I'm not saying throw it off a 3rd floor balcony, but if you drop this out of the back of your car, off the back of a pickup on hard concrete, you're not gonna have to worry about stuff inside getting scrambled. It also has water protection built in, so it's got an IP67 rating, which means you can get this thing totally wet. You can actually take it out to the water and submerge it for a little bit of time, and the water's not going to get inside that case. And part of that is because it's sealed so tightly, but it's also because of these bear claw latches up front. Now, I talked about those before. A lot of the cheaper cases have a simple flip-up latch. I guarantee you, when you throw that in the back of your car, it's going to pop open on you and stuff's going to pop out. Having the bear claw latches means that it's securely closed, and it's going to prevent any kind of egress from water and other moisture getting inside the case. The automatic pressure relief valve is a plus if you're going to travel on airplanes. The locking handle means that it's going to form a really compact case. You can stack these up if you have a couple of Mavics out there in the market. It's got a lifetime warranty, which is a really brave move from a company to say, look, we think this case is going to outlast your drone. Use it. If you have a problem with it, and get in touch with us and we'll take care of it. I think that's pretty cool. I also like the fact that it's offered in a bunch of different colors. I typically get a black case because all my cases match that way. But if you need it in like that high visibility or high vis yellow or orange or one of those other colors, you can get it from them and you can order it right off their website. So that's pretty much it for me. And again, I like this case an awful lot. I've used it for a while. It's one of my favorite cases for hard case. I use a couple others, but this is the one I go to more often than not. I'll put some links below where you can go to Amazon and take a look at it and, get the specifications and all the stuff you care about. But if you're looking for a hard case, this is the one to own. And I say that out of experience. So thanks an awful lot for watching. I really appreciate you guys with all the subscriptions we've gotten and comments from you guys about these things. If you have any questions about the case or how I use it or what accessories I pack in there, just drop me a comment below and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And again, thanks so much for watching. And until next time, happy flying.